You know, they're a rap band. Like, you know, they have a live band, but they're rappers, you know.
Yeah,
one of them sings. One of them sings.
What do you call The Roots or Gym Class?
Right, exactly. And Black Thought's like the greatest rapper ever. Like, in all reality, like, Black Thought is so fucking good, it's unbelievable. And The Roots is like, what? How good of a band is The Roots? Like,
they're fantastic.
Like, as far as like,
I'd go to see them play as a backup band for anybody, and I'd be going to see them.
It's crazy, right? Like, it really is insane how, like, they literally have, if not the best, the most consistent rapper, MC ever.
Oh, hell yeah!
And then the best band, one of the best bands ever. And I'm not talking about just like a hip hop band. I'm talking about like Questlove, dude, is untouchable.
They're solid core.
He's untouchable.
The rhythm section is so ridiculous.
Good, man. I love listening to old stuff to new stuff. Doesn't even matter, you know. It's just it's so entertaining, man. Black Thought's so good, and the Roots are so good. Like, I remember watching what the hell is Late Night Show are they on? I never watch it anymore.
Jimmy Fallon.
Yeah, Jimmy Fallon. I remember watching that specifically to see the Roots. You know.
See my cat?
Oh yeah, I've been seeing it. It's so funny. But yeah, I remember watching that show specifically to see the Roots for 20 seconds at a time. Yeah. You know, and I think that's something that, you know, that's special, man.
Honestly, if I could get into a Jimmy Fallon show, I would be going, I wouldn't even care who the guests were, wouldn't give a shit. I'd be basically...
Right. When you come down to New York, you gotta make that happen.
Commercial breaks.
For real.
You know? So I feel like they just do it as like an hour in full, or however long they...
Dude, that cat is hilarious, dude. That is hysterical. Like a cat jumping up and down.
Dude, I put his little stick thing underneath all the stuff on the top of my dresser. And basically, I'll just ring the bell, and now he knows where it is, so I'll catch an eyeball on it every now and again.
Right. That's too fun. That's too fun.
It's hilarious.
Cats are funny.
Yeah. I would go see the Jimmy Fallon, Late Night with Jimmy Fallon, just to watch the Roots in between the sets. And I'm sure that they do stuff. You know, I'm sure they play songs before or after or something along those. Even if they don't, just to hear them play.
For real, yeah. Even if it's for 20 seconds at a time, I don't care. Yeah. They're so good.
They're incredible.
Is Danny doing to say, or we don't know?
Go ahead.
I don't know. I haven't seen anything from Danny yet.
Okay. 2 minutes to live.
Cool.
Ba, ba, ba.
But I mean, even like talking about the Roots, like, I mean, Quest has got to be like, I don't want to overstep, but like, he's got to be like one of the best drummers ever. I mean,
for sure. I mean, if not one of the most consistent.
I know, and I know, like, you know, if you listen, like, you know, I grew up listening to everything, so like all that remains. Like, yeah, they're slamming a double bass pedal, and the drummer's amazing. But it's not
a different style.
It's not the same.
It's a different.
Well, they're not really comparable. But
I would make your argument that he could definitely be. I would say maybe not the best drummer. And I don't mean that like he's uber talented. I would say that he's the most consistent because he's a hip hop drummer. Right. So his deal is to basically emulate a basic kick snare track that you would find on a hip hop record. Yeah. And so that's his job is to complement. He has to be good enough to just sort of like blend into the background. You know what I mean? But still hold the whole fucking song together. Like, those are, in my opinion, like, I love the progressive, like, rock drummers and stuff like that, but those are some of the best drummers, I think, are, like, old-school jazz drummers and big band drummers. The drummers that, they're there as sort of the background for the instruments that are sitting up in the higher frequencies, like the guitars and the horn sections and vocalists and that sort of deal. They're the backbone for everything else. So if the song's so good and you don't notice the drums, like, that's absolutely positive. And I guess we are live. So, welcome, motherfuckers.
What's up?
It's Geek Ronin. We got Law, and we got Time, and Lepp. Well, actually, it's just Lepp.
Just Lepp today.
Just Lepp today. And you know what? That's fine by me.
We'll get Time on here eventually.
It's all good. I'm sure we will at some point or another. Welcome to Geek Ronin. It is, Wednesday the 11th, and this is streaming on Facebook. So, feel free as always, to jump on here. Oh, look, I can even see me on Facebook.
I'll be following the chat
gonna share
with
it.
you guys, so I got you.
Hell yeah,
Hey.
share the fuck out of that too.
Let me find it and share it real quick. Well, before we really get into it here.
Oh, of course.
Let's see here. Let me find it and share it. I hear it. We really get into it here. Of course.
Yeah, I hear that.
That's not on mine though. I haven't even found it
no,
yet.
that's not mine. That's
Oh, okay, cool.
It's all good. There you go.
Here we go. Now I can share it.
Shazam.
There we go. Shared it.
Share it. So
For
yeah,
real.
guys, we're live again. Finally, it took fucking long enough to actually do. Had to get all our shit together.
You know how it is.
Hey, we're here though.
We're here, and I'm glad that that's finally happening. So yeah, we're talking music this fine evening. We were just actually talking about the Roots, and that Questlove is probably one of the most consistent and prominent drummers that's out there, because he's fucking fantastic. The whole band, the Roots, is fantastic.
Yeah, it's unbelievable how consistent they all are. You know, every single one of them is super consistent.
And they're all so incredibly versatile too.
For sure.
And it's crazy, man, because they hear they can hear like a 10-second snippet of a song and play it like right back, like almost immediately. It's so dope to see people like that still pushing.
Oh hell yeah! It's all ear training too. Like, so they know as soon as they hear that note, they probably all they have to hear is the first 10 seconds, and you'll figure out what key it's in, what the meter's in. So you got Questlove, who's just so incredibly talented. He finds the fucking BPM right off the bat, and then they can jump in, and then everybody else sort of is like, okay, it's in this key. That's sort of the line right there. All right, let's go. Let's do it.
Right, exactly.
I was able to meet them a few years ago. Who was this? I want to say like maybe 3 years ago. I met them like doing a red carpet for like Nick or some. I want to say like Nickelodeon Teen or something awards or whatever the case is, and they were on the red carpet. They were fucking dope as hell.
That's awesome.
I'll find that selfie and show you guys. But it was me,
That's dope.
My friend Melissa that I always go to like red carpets with and whatnot. Her.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was really dope.
Yeah, from everything that I see, man, they're super like receptive people, and they're all like, I read Questlove's book, and it's amazing. It's so amazing. What was that?
Shout out to the hat, by the way. I have a Fallout hat hanging. I should go grab it.
Hey, I love Fallout, man. I got the.
There you go.
I think I even have the shirt on today.
Yeah, he does.
Oh man,
So funny. I love Fallout, man. That's like amazing. But yeah, man, I read Questlove's book, and it was just like I don't even know how to explain it, man. It was just super captivating to listen to him explain like how they all met each other, and like how they all look at each other, and like, you know, a lot of the times, man, you rise to that level of fame, and you know, we see it a million times, like no one ever stays together like that. And they're super consistent. Everything's always quality, and it's a fun time.
Exact band members for their entire like run, right?
I think so. I don't think that they've changed a single person. I mean, I could be wrong, because, you know, we all know like Black Thought and Quest, but
right.
I mean, I'm pretty sure they've been the same the whole time, man.
And they're 25 years?
Oh my
Something
God!
like
I mean, they gotta be, right. I mean,
at least.
I mean, I was born in '92, and they had to be. They had to be around then.
Yeah, for sure.
Right, you know, and I'm 25 years old, so it's like, it's crazy, man.
Yeah.
Black Thought, did you guys see his freestyle on Funk Flex?
No.
It's just, it's
the
like,
recent one? No.
It's just 10 minutes. It's not really a freestyle, it's a written.
Right.
Obviously, it's a written.
But still, like,
dude, it's just 10 minutes.
Some of his, like, one of my favorite ciphers from him, it'll still be the one with him, Eminem, and Mos from back in the day on the BET ciphers.
Amazing, dude.
And it was easily like those were when like I used to be like a real like Smack DVD head and like just listen to nothing but ciphers all day. And that was one of the ones I would show my boys. I'm like, yo, you guys sleep so much on the Roots, but listen to Black Thought. And like a lot of people won't even know who like Black Star is, or like who they are rather as a group. And you're just like, you know Mos Def, right? You know Black Thought, right? Picture this together, and they're like, what is happening?
Yeah, it's crazy too because you know, like all of those pieces, you know, whenever you see those old school hip hop dudes, like you always know that like they have that mutual respect for each other because like they're like almost like interchangeable in some places. It's like, oh, that verse kind of sounds like that, but it's way different. But like all of those guys have their own style, but they're so true to like what they're doing that it's just like you can't ever take it away from them, man. They're just so good. Like you can't shut a microphone off on Mos Def. You can't shut also, a microphone off on Black Dot. I have to correct
myself. It's Mos and Talib.
Talib Kweli.
But very underrated as well.
Yeah, Talib gets a little like he gets a little confusing to listen to from time to time, but at the same time, it's like you don't need to understand it all to really enjoy it, or else. And I'm not an Aesop Rock fan, but no one understands what he's saying. It's super cryptic, but like that dude has a following, and he can rap his ass off, man. I'm not listening to it, but he can rap his ass off. I mean, that's not up for debate. Right. So a lot of those, you know, like Mos Def is just so untouchable. It's not even funny. Like if you're talking about pure talent, like as a rapper and a writer, like you can't really you can put people on the same level, but you can't put anybody above Mos Def, man. He's too good.
I'm really tempted to ask the famous "What's your top 5" question.
Oh man, the thing is, man, I have so many. You sound
like one of my boys from back my way, and we would have these same conversations where the same names would come up, and then we would all have our one like favorite, like the champion that we're like, yo, are you serious? Why are they not on your list?
I mean, like, you know, whenever the top 5 thing comes in, like I listen to Wu-Tang my whole life, right? I love Wu-Tang. I like my favorite album ever is 36 Chambers, right? And it came out the year I was born, right? Which is insane. But I'm not a Ghostface Killah fan. I can't, but I'm a Method Man fan. I would put Method Man in my top 5 any day of the week. Even though Ghostface's catalog is way bigger, he's probably more successful as a solo artist.
But that goes to say, like, I've heard people try to argue against people's catalogs because, like, oh, they're new, they need more experience, or whatever the case is, and then they're like, this person has more of a catalog. I'm like, if their bars are better, or if their presence is just there, like you can't knock that. There's nothing to say that this person isn't better because they started later or they're younger, or whatever the case is.
Or he only dropped 2 albums. Right. Like sometimes like it's quantity over quality, man. Sometimes it's quality over quantity, and it's just about who you are. You know,
you also have to look at, as far as catalog, you have to look at what is like a timeless album. A lot of people drop albums that we don't mention 10 years after they're you know, released. A lot of the albums we like grew up with, for the most part, are still albums that we can still like put in, play, and not even skip a song. You know? I think Biggie's like one of those people that, I mean, 2 albums, 2 like actual. I'm not talking about like all the stuff that they came out with after he was dead. Right. I'm talking about like his actual studio albums that he went in and set out for. Like they're untouchable, you know. But his catalog's tiny. It's not like even Pac, man. Like that dude has so many songs that it's almost like you wouldn't even know where to start, right? Yeah. And Biggie, it's like you might only hear like 30 songs total, but they're all really good. And some of them are kind of silly, you know. Like Biggie could be pretty silly, but I mean, the dude was talented nonetheless. And like as far as like
Method Man goes, for example, his albums are dope. I love them. They're good albums. But I'm talking about, like, his verses on the Wu-Tang albums. Like, you know, like, I don't necessarily pop in, like, you know, The Day After, or, you know, by Method Man and bump it straight through. But I'll go listen to every one of his verses on, you know, 36 Chambers all the way through Legendary Weapons, you know. And that's the thing is Wu-Tang's recent albums, they get slept on because everyone's like, oh, it's Wu-Tang dropping another album, you know, and it's not the same. Method Man raps exactly the fucking same, you know, like you're not finding something like the dude's still spitting the same bars, like they're amazing, they're just as good as they were 20 years ago, but you just don't like it because it's their 20th album they've dropped, you know what I'm saying? And it's like listening to Eminem, like at this point to bring up Eminem like is corny. Like, I find it very corny. Like, I'm not trying to listen to Eminem anymore. Okay. But you can't touch the Slim Shady LP. You can't touch the Eminem Show or Marshall Mathers LP. They're great albums. Right. But even today, at this point in my life, I'm not listening to them ever consistently. Right. I loved them at the time when I was 12, you know? Like, I loved that stuff. But it's not... It just took a turn, and it's not the same as it used to be. And I think that some people change over time and they get better, but we're always looking for, like, what got them famous, right? So, like, that album was so good.
Does legacy, not catalog, but, like, if they essentially shape the way for their generation, does that hold more weight in your top 5? Or is it just pure based on, like, skill? Like, do you take other things into consideration for it?
I think, like, for my top 5, like, if it depends, like favorites or, like, who the best rapper is, right? Like a catalog, like, what's crazy is, like, I love old school hip-hop, but Kid Cudi is, like, one of my favorite artists ever, you know? And so they're different feelings, but do I think Kid Cudi is as good a rapper as, you know, any of the people in Wu-Tang Clan? Not a chance. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So if we're talking about favorites, you know, it's a little different than who the best rappers are, in my opinion. Okay. And I would say, you know, the best rappers out there are people like Mos Def, Black Dot. Like, those guys are the best rappers. You can't rap better than them. But as far as, like, my favorites, it would definitely differ from who the top 5 best of all time to my top 5 favorite. It would probably differ substantially, you know, very, very much so.
Do you think that, like, when you say, all right, these are my like, people who I feel like are the best rappers, like you mentioned Mos Def and you mentioned Black Thought, those are almost universally, like, everyone's gonna agree upon it. Do you feel like a top 5, if we try to come up with one right now, would it be universal, or would there still be some level of scrutiny with it? At least to a degree where they're like, that wouldn't necessarily be in my top 5, but at least in my top 10, or that there are people in the conversation.
Yeah, I think for the most part, like, people would agree to, like, disagree on those kind of things. Like, yeah, dude, that dude's super nice, but he's not in mine. Like, kind of like you said. But I think to a certain point, like, you can't deny that Mos Def is, like, one of the best rappers ever.
Right.
You know, like, whether or not he's in your top 5 favorites, like, probably, most people probably not. Look at my kids right here. You want to see him?
Hey,
what's up, Landon?
I'm talking to them. He wants to steal my phone.
Of course he does.
Here you go, bud. Oh, I get a hug out of it? Look at this. Kid comes, interrupts the podcast. I get a hug out of it.
There you go.
Hey.
Winner, winner.
But no, honestly, I think that everyone hears another person's top 5 and they instantly, like, want to jump down their throat about it. Like, oh, come on, how is he there? Well, dude, I'm just telling you who my favorites are.
Well, you know? I think people a lot of times forget that music is art is subjective, and it's going to mean something different to everybody else. So there's no point arguing about it. It's all just discussing why I would have this guy in there and I wouldn't have this guy in there. But I can totally totally see your point about this. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's totally
it should be more of a discussion as opposed to an argument.
So I have this conversation with a lot of my friends about Kendrick Lamar, and I don't love Kendrick Lamar. I just don't.
I'm in that camp.
But the dude is fucking nasty. I know the dude rap his fucking ass off, but he wouldn't even touch my top 20 as far as favorites. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So I don't listen to it. Like, To Pimp a Butterfly was a dope album. Great. But I think when you're talking about who the best, who your favorites are, he would be in the best list somewhere. Not in the top 5, probably not in the top 10 for me, but I can understand why he would be in people's favorites. Because the guy's nice. I know he can rap his ass off, you know? And so that's one of the things, man. Like, art is totally subjective, you know? And no matter whether it's a painting, like, my favorite painting is Starry Night, right? And some people would see it and be like, oh, yeah, cool. And some people would be like, oh, my God, that's my favorite, too. Some people would be like, well, I don't like Mona Lisa. You know, it's like, well, we can agree that Mona Lisa is a work of art. It doesn't have to be your favorite to agree that it's an incredible work of art. You know, so that's kind of how I always gauge, like, those lists. I try to tell people, like, well, are we talking about, like, the best ever, or are we talking about my favorite
lyrics ever? I usually also break it down, like, to lyrics, to who's the most timeless, like, you know, because I've heard where people are like, how is LL and not in your top 20? I'm like, that's a different list, where, like, you have the trailblazers, people who we wouldn't have what we have today if it weren't for a lot of these guys or girls. But he wouldn't make, I feel like, a strong top 20 like list, especially with not necessarily what we have now, but to the degree of what we've had in the last 15 years, let's say it. You know?
Yeah, I would have to agree. You know, it's like there's certain people like I love Big Daddy Kane. I love Big Daddy Kane, but I understand that it's not that it's like past the time for that kind of music, but like I can understand why a younger generation isn't trying to listen to Big Daddy Kane. The same way, like I love Led Zeppelin. I love those bands. My dad grew up as a Grateful Dead head, but I can't listen to the same 50 songs for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
You know, and so I'll listen to it, I love it. When it comes on, I'm not telling anybody to shut it off. But if I'm going through YouTube or Spotify, I'm not searching for Big Daddy Kane anymore. There's times for it, you know, there's certainly times for it where I'm like, oh, I want to hear that song, or I want to hear this. And with other artists, like, every time you hear Big Papa, like, you're like, everyone knows that song. It's a timeless song.
Right.
It'll never get to a point where someone doesn't know Big Papa. It will always be a popular song. But Biggie's song Warning, I mean, kids nowadays don't know Warning, but they know, I love it when you call me Big Papa.
Which is crazy, because I feel like Warning is such a...
Way better. It's a way better song.
It's a great way to showcase his storytelling ability. And also just, like, how creative of a guy he was. Like, without him, we would not have the Jay-Z that we grew up with, let alone the Jay-Z that all these kids are listening to now. Which is another thing that I've had to, like, I've come to accept, and also have to, like, tell people, like, the rappers or the artists or musicians, like, that we grew up with aren't the same that we had now. We had to, like, either grow up with them and, like, accept their changes, or just be like, I'll just stick to the old stuff, because the new stuff isn't for me. We've had it, you know, when we were talking about Linkin Park in the past, Fall Out Boy, a lot of their stuff now, everyone's like, oh, I don't like this, that. And, you know, if it's not for you, it's not for you.
I'm not going to lie. I feel like a lot of the times people need to look at, when it comes to that sort of thing, regardless of the genre, is look at the structure. Like, don't listen to it for all the bells and whistles and the production, because if they're a huge band, they're obviously, if they're around still, they're going to be using the tricks that are keeping all of the other big pop bands and pop artists that they're competing with. They're going to be using those to try and get a newer audience. But if you really sit down and listen to their music and sit down and hear, like, Fall Out Boy is a perfect example. I wasn't a huge fan of their last couple of albums. Didn't really listen to a lot of it. I sat down and, like, really listened to their last album that they just put out this year. And it's a straight-up Fall Out Boy album. Like, if you really listen to it, it's well made, and if you fuck around with the instrumentation and give me 2 guitars, a bass, and a kick drum, and and a drum kit, then it's a straight up old school Fall Out Boy album because the lyrics are on point, the hooks are fucking fantastic. It's dressed up 2018 pop rock album because they're in 2018. Their first album came out in 2000? I think.
Oh yeah.
Take This to Your Grave was 2002. So, like, they've been around for 20 plus years, and they've been so successful since 2004 when Sugar We're Going Down fucking made them huge.
Right.
They've been so successful since then, and they're still going because they've been able to change with the times. And I think a lot of people don't really think about that. And if you really listen to, like, the structure and how the songs and everything are written, you can really tell if they've mailed it in or if they're still putting out good albums.
I think the thing, yeah, totally, I agree. And I think the thing with, like, a band like Fall Out Boy is, like, you hear it and you know that it's Fall Out Boy still. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's not like one of those things where you're like, this sounds totally different. Like, no, it still sounds like Fall Out Boy. It's just a little bit more modern.
It's produced. It's much more produced, or it's produced in a different way to achieve a desired effect with who they're trying to catch with it. So trying to catch younger kids with it, the younger generation. So they're going to do the things that the younger kids are going to be listening to.
Yeah, of course. And I mean that what is that, like, what is it called, like Centuries or something?
Yeah, that was a fantastic song.
That song's incredible.
Mm-hmm.
Like as far as, like, just music goes, like, whether or not you like the song, like, is up for debate, whatever, it's subjective. But the music is great. It's really good. Whether you like it really doesn't have much to do with if it's good music, you know? Like, I know people like to say, oh, that's crap. Well, I mean, have you listened to the guy play guitar? Have you listened to this man sing? Because it's far from it. You might not like it, but it's really, really good.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah. And that's something that they can't take away from them.
There's a reason that so many people like their music. It's because they're good.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
The same thing.
It's exactly that.
I feel like the same thing happened whenever, I think 2008 was when Lasers dropped from Lupe Fiasco, and everyone was like all the diehard Lupe fans were pissed because they were like, this is so not like what you're usually doing. And then he dropped a super commercial album, like really commercial. It's what the labels wanted. They didn't want lyrics that went over people's heads or crazy far out concepts and designs. Dropped that album, and everyone was like, oh my god, it's so crazy, like, why are you doing commercial stuff? He's like, no, I'm giving the masses, for the most part, what they want, and I'm still gonna kill this album. And then jump right back into another, like, classic, what was it? He did The Cool 2 after that. Like, okay. No, sorry, he did Food and Liquor 2. Like, got right back as if nothing happened. And it's one of those things, like,
Lupe's a great storyteller, man.
Oh,
that's something that, like you mentioned, like, people said, like, oh, it's, like, kind of dumbed down in a way. Like, no, he's just that good of a storyteller, man. He really is. It's not really dumbed down. He knows he's a great storyteller.
Maybe top 3 since I've ever listened to him. And, like, as soon as I got into him, I was like, who is this guy? I must have spent, like, easily that first few months or years even when Food and Liquor was just, like, hot and just coming out, just up until the Cool drop, listening to all his mixtape stuff. Like, his mixtape stuff is, like, bonkers. Like, people are like, oh my gosh, Daydream, or, you know, the Cool, all these songs where I love them. Don't get it twisted. These songs are classics and my favorites of his. However, if we can include his mixtape stuff as some of my favorites, my whole list would change.
Yeah, totally. And that's cool. Like, a lot of people, like, they just hate growth. Like, I think maybe it's not growth, it's change.
Right.
And a lot of the time that change comes in the form of growth, right? You know? And you see people grow because they change because they want to grow and they want to do different things. And what I always say is, like, whenever we go to the studio, because, like, you know, me and Time are, like, Time and Lepp is like kind of an old school vibe. You know, what we do is kind of an old school vibe, but I'm so many more things. And so that's a big project, man, is getting people to understand that you're more than one thing. Because they get used to the one thing, yes. and that's what they want.
Please say that one more time for the people not listening. That is, oh man, if I can staple like that sign to my forehead, like seriously
though. I've had to explain it to my partner, like like I've had to explain it to everybody, our A&R, like the label owner, like, and luckily we have such a good team that they understand, but it definitely took a minute, you know, to be like, dude, we are more than just 90s boom bap rappers. If I hear the word boom bap one more time, I'm gonna lose my mind. So, you know, but I still love that side of what I do, and I'll always do it, super lyrical stuff. But, you know, people say dumbing it down or whatever it might be. I'm just a lot of different things, man, you know, and that's the way that it goes.
For sure.
Absolutely, man.
Squeeze this kid. Run downstairs, watch TV. It'll be done soon. Here, take it. It'll be done.
You got a cute kid there, man.
Thank you, man.
Tommy,
he looks like it's.
Yo.
Do you experience a lot of the same stuff with your like music when you start doing stuff? Like the need for change or growth, and it's like an uncertain feeling?
I don't know if I call it like uncertain. It's more along the lines of, I mean, we've up until maybe 6 or 8 months ago, we really didn't have. Actually, no, probably closer to a year ago. About a year ago, we started trying to actively seek out other members because me and Connery and Andrew had all been playing. We'd all been playing together for at least the last 5, now 6 years, and you know we all knew what we liked and we would play to those advantages. But it was one of those deals where you play together long enough.
That's the robot.
And you have all the same ideas going in at the same time, and it's I can always count on Andrew for specific ideas. I can always count on James for specific ideas, and I always put in some sort of the same style of ideas. And we all thought it was like, all right, well, we need to start adding to it, as opposed to just being a 3-piece. Let's try and be 4-piece or 5-piece, or bigger if we can somehow manage to do that. 5 people, but right now we're a 5-piece, and it has changed a lot of our songs, even from the demos that we just put out in January. A lot of those songs have been altered and are much different now because we're incorporating lyrics into them, and we're incorporating a second guitar or a set of like a synth or keys or something along those lines. So it's changing a lot of the dynamics of how it's sounding, and it's actually kind of cool because we're having to go back and reimagine the stuff that we've been playing for 3 or 4 years that we know really, really super well. We can play super tight.
How long have you guys been a band prior to like the new revamp, kind of, if you will?
What do you mean?
How long have you guys, like, since the creation of the Floating Lighthouse?
If you want to go all the way back, before Connery was even the bass player, Connery would just come to hang out at practices, and when it was actually comprised of me, my friend from like middle school, Chris, and Andrew. Me and Andrew have been playing together since 2007.
Oh wow!
And we stopped playing for a couple of years. I want to say from 2011 to 2013, 2014, somewhere in there, or 2012. Was it 2012? Yeah, somewhere in there. We started playing again maybe 2 or 3 years after, because the last album we put out was 2009.
Oh wow!
July 2009. We banged out a 13-song album in 2 days.
Damn!
Oh my God!
It was a concept. You guys actually, if you go into thefloatinglighthouse.com and you click on the music page, we have all of the albums in there.
Yeah,
so the second album, How Dark Blue We Dream, you can tell we did it in 2 days because we spent maybe the first day on drums and just did drums the whole first day, and then the second day we did everything else.
Oh wow! There
were a handful of songs that we added outside of the ends. I think the Reprise and the Overture were two songs that we recorded on our own. But outside of that, we recorded everything in fucking 2 days. And it's 13 songs. And some of the songs are long. Like, I think the first 2 songs are close to 10 minutes long each.
Wow.
So,
that's not even...
The last song's like 12 and a half minutes long or something crazy like that. There are a lot of really long songs on that album.
And so, 2 days, you're doing about almost an hour and a half worth of music? More than...
About an hour, I want to say. I mean, if... Here, let me check and see real quick.
Yeah, you can pull up the running time.
Oh, man.
Let's see.
That's the crazy thing about the whole LFOD 24 and 24, man. That whole album came to in 24 hours.
Right?
And they dropped it
really?
after 24 hours. They dropped the album. When everyone's song was finished, you had 1 hour to record, mix, and master your song.
Yep.
And there was 24 artists.
And they were all successful in doing that.
And every one of them got it done because they knew they had to.
Yeah.
And what?
That's bonkers, though. I mean, I
it was
I've
crazy.
heard crazy concepts like that, but I've never actually seen it done. That is bonkers.
Honestly, I was super skeptical. Like, to be perfectly honest with you, I was so skeptical of it. I didn't know if it was going to work, but the way that Uncle Sam, man, the way that he does things, he made me believe that it was going to work.
Yeah.
And that was huge. And I know that I wasn't the only one he did that for. You know, he did that with multiple people, so it made it a full-blown experience. I didn't feel worried about only having an hour. I felt excited about only having an hour because I knew it was all raw. You know, it was whatever. I only have a certain amount of takes to do this. I can't spend 45 minutes recording our verses.
Right.
So we got to get it. And it was super exciting. It was a little nerve-wracking, but not. I was never worried that it was going to come out bad or wrong. I was always so sure of what we were doing that I was like, this album's going to be sweet. And it was. And I only have 1 song on it, man. There's 24 songs on it. I have 1 song on it. And it's like, the album's incredible, dude.
It is fantastic.
It's a great album.
That's
24,
crazy,
LFOD, go download
creative,
it.
Oh, hell yeah.
beautiful masterpiece right there. Like, trying to get that
It's
many
crazy.
people into the same space and just say, go to town.
Yeah, man, it's crazy how it actually worked. That's the crazy part about it. It actually worked.
Sebastian says, damn, that's crazy.
Right?
Absolutely, yeah. Check out LFOD Radio. If you follow me on Instagram, anybody who's actually watching, probably not too many. I don't know how many we even have, but
we've had people coming in and out. We've had about 3 or 4.
I edit the podcast for them every week. Have been since October, if I remember correctly. But it's always they're really good at what they do. Sam is super good at what he does, and I'm actually trying to get him to come on to 10 minutes or less to do a whole thing, do his own episode. I think he's going to talk about the music scene or something like that. But
that'd be dope, man. He's fun to listen to talk, dude. He is. He's fun to listen to.
He's got that voice. He's got the voice, man. What was I going to say? A little over 70 minutes is the album.
Not bad.
Oh wow.
And
that's insane.
A lot of those songs had more than 1 set of guitar. So like we would have drums, but we'd also have the bass. We'd have most of the time at least 2 guitars and keyboards.
This is when you still had only 3
and vocals. 3. Yeah, there were only 3 of us.
So who are the members that play multiple instruments? Because there has to be
all of us.
Oh wow! So it makes it so much easier. You're just like,
well, there were songs that I would play bass on, and our bassist would play guitar. We switched back and forth. We both took vocals. We all wrote our own individual songs and comprised them together. Andrew wrote the 12.5-minute fucking song at the end. You can definitely tell because you can tell what songs are written by Chris and what songs are written by me and what songs are written by Andrew.
That's nuts.
It's really crazy. Like I wrote a song. I know one of the tunes is song I Just Want to Go Home is about me when I was working at Shaw's.
Mm-hmm.
A song on one of on our first album, One Way Road, was about our bassist Chris taking a different route home from work. It's a blues song.
Would you have any idea without you telling me that? Like, if I listened to it, would I know that?
Probably.
There isn't a lot of metaphors and whatnot, so you can't really tell what's going on. Open to interpretation.
Oh no. Let's see. I don't know if you'll be able to hear it. Let's see if we can. I might be able to play it here. Are you hearing this?
No.
No.
No? Ah, damn. It's only playing through here. Yeah.
One, two, three.
Oh, Boondava. That was dope. Good job, Tommy.
There you go.
You just dropped the link.
It has all.
For you guys watching, go to that link, pause this video, go to this link, and you will be able to listen to that.
That's dope. Good job.
Good job. Way to go, Skype, for your improved updates.
Yeah, did that get posted to the the Facebook thing? Because that's just straight out on yours.
No, anything that is on my screen is what we can see at home.
Oh, okay. Sweet.
Well, then it's definitely there.
Nice.
That's dope.
Yes, it is. Oh, yeah. I'm just going to type it in anyway, just to
Cool.
anybody that comes to the chat. Super easy.
Yeah, definitely link it in the chat.
Oh, we're like, Prez here, Yun is here, Seabass. We got a few people. What's up, everybody? How goes it? Hold on. I like it for my video to come back, but
There you go.
Is it working? Yeah.
we're still live. We're still good.
Cool.
Hell yeah. Fuck yeah. I don't know, how long do you guys want to go for?
Totally,
I don't care, man. We can keep going. I'm cool.
Yeah, I'm Gucci.
I'm enjoying the convo.
For sure.
Yeah, in regards to
Yeah,
the
that's
music,
his munchkin. His name is Landon, but we call him Lando. Am I getting this
Lando.
right? Lando.
Good old Lando Calrissian.
Long live
my
the
son.
geeks. What's going on?
It's your boy.
What's up, Larice? What's up, Sebastian? Prez?
Yes, guys, what's up? Yeah, but I mean, to get back to the original point of the question was the reason the whole idea for growth is it stops being productive at some point if you're doing the same thing over and over and over again.
Yeah. I feel like just as creatives, we can't stay stagnant. Like, we start to get, like, irritable and just, like, we need to do something more.
It needs to be fun. If you're not for me at least, if it's not challenging, if I'm not learning a new skill, if I don't have to practice really, really hard to be able to get that part that someone else wrote that's going to make the song sound really, really good, if it doesn't have something along those lines in it somewhere, that's not really super fun anymore, because that was sort of all the songs that we have now. I had to bust my ass to get the dexterity to be able to play, and then now I'm looking at it going, I could probably play faster, or I could probably play more intricately if I really, really pushed harder.
Right.
You know what I mean? It makes it more fun. There's like a goal involved, whether or not you're releasing any of this stuff. It's almost sort of a satisfaction to have someone have to slow a part down for you, and it takes you 3 or 4 months, but by the time 3 or 4 months comes around, you can play it in your sleep and you're not even thinking about it.
Oh yeah, it's super rewarding too, man.
Mm-hmm.
Super rewarding to grow. That's the thing, man. Like you wouldn't. Just because somebody's a professional football player doesn't mean they don't like playing basketball. So when you're different things, it's just you can do so many things, man. It's like, and that's the part with, obviously people hate change, like we talked about, and so they don't want to see their favorite, musician, or if he's in a band, they don't want to see him try out electronic music. But unfortunately for them, that guy might love both of those things. Mm-hmm. So you can't tell someone that they have to fit in one thing. Just like they got big one way doesn't mean they have to keep only doing that.
Yeah, it's like what's his name, Aaron Lewis from Stained.
Yeah,
put out a country album, and it's a fantastic country album.
Hootie and the Blowfish, man.
Fuck yeah, Darius Rucker put out fantastic country
They would have never been able to keep that momentum. Like, he knew, like, hey, I'm into different things here. And so he went off and did his own thing. Now, I don't know what happened with the band. I don't know if they just had a falling out and the guy went solo, but I don't really care. All I know is that he's good at more than one thing, Those songs from Hootie sound nothing like his music now. And I think that's kind of beautiful, man. Like, that's a really cool thing to see. And that's why, like, with my generation, I'm only 25, but, like, a lot of my friends aren't trying to listen to what's popular in, like, rap music today. And to me, it's like, I don't know, man. I just embrace it all. Like, I'm not going to say that, like, it's good, but, like, I'm not, like, there's times where you want to listen to lyrical stuff, and there's times where you want to turn up. And there's nothing wrong with that. Like, I like to be ignorant sometimes. Yeah. So I'm going to listen to some ignorant shit. And that's the way that it goes. And if you don't like it, you don't have to listen to it. But people hating on it is just a whole different story, especially when you see a young black man making money and you have something wrong to say about it. It doesn't make any sense.
I think I came at it with the sense of, like, who the fuck are these guys at first? Because, like, I would see them on interviews and whatnot and just completely shit on the genre that they're coming up in. But,
yeah,
like, I had this talk with my nephew Zayas the other day. He was like, you can't see it as the same hip-hop you grew up with. Hip-hop needs its own categories now. So you have the mumble rappers, you have the lyricists, you have the storytellers, whatever the categories may be, And then I was like, all right, that makes more sense. It's like, for me, it's like the cousin that you're like, I'm related to him, but not by blood. So, he's way over that way.
It's the same thing with just about every other genre. Like, I could go into, we could go into let's just say aggressive rock, but there's a million different subgenres of that. You could have hardcore. Hardcore is another one. What generation of hardcore are we talking about? Are we talking about 90s? Or are we talking about early 2000s, like the shit that I used to see at shows when I went to go see, like, the pop punk bands that I really, really enjoyed?
Right.
Or the stuff now, like, it's all technically hardcore. What are we looking at? There's hardcore, there's metalcore, there's grindcore.
What would you consider someone like G.G. Allin?
Honestly, I would consider G.G. Allin closer to punk, but I wouldn't have any problem putting him in the hardcore, like,
Don't you think if G.G. Allin never existed and then existed today, that he would be something totally different? There'd be another name for what G.G. Allin was, or so I think that it's totally just, it's with the times. My dad thinks hip hop's crap. And that's his prerogative. That's what but he doesn't think that they're not talented. He just doesn't want to listen to it. Yeah, it's pretty simple.
Honestly, I wish people could just do that with, it's like, I'm not saying that it's bad, but it's just not my cup of tea. It's not something that I like.
And even if you want to say that it's bad, like, I think there's a difference between saying, like, oh, that guy's not a good rapper and this guy doesn't deserve what he has. And like, even someone like, it's hard to get into it, especially being like a rapper, an MC myself. Right. But like, you know, when Kid Cudi came out, people were like, "What is this? The Lonely Stoner? Like, what is this guy talking about?" And then it grabbed people, and the guy became super famous. Right. And like people like for example, like I can't stand Lil Yachty. I think he's horrible. I think he's not a good rapper. I don't think anything about his music is good. But I don't mind him.
They also don't. I don't dislike themselves rappers, which is like a weird thing. Like, so that's a lot of my like frustration with them in general is like they're coming up using like almost the coattails of hip hop to try to like make their thing happen, and they don't feel like they're hip hop artists, and nor do we. Like, we're just here looking at them like, the fuck is happening now?
You could argue the same thing about what we would call classic rock, coming up on the coattails of blues.
Yeah.
Everything that was popular during the 60s and 70s when it came to rock and roll music, Led Zeppelin, Deep Purple, AC/DC, it was all based on blues music, and it was all based on something totally different. And they changed it, and they associated with it, but it wasn't what they were associating it with. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, only a select few bands really even stayed with the blues model, and I mean, even AC/DC, which is the closest one to it, they're not. I mean, I guess they play in like blues standards, but it's not blues.
It's power chords, you know. Yeah, but it's kind of similar, you know.
It's in a blues structure and blues keys, and that's pretty much what it is.
Sebastian brought up a good point. A lot of, especially when Joe Budden's like started to talk to Yachty. All these kids now, they're coming up and they're basically shitting on the generations that allowed them to even like have a platform.
Well, yeah, there's a difference, like, when you hear the guy Kodak Black say, like, he's better than Tupac, like, it's laughable, like, we all know that, but, like, you know that he wants you to talk about him now, right? Like, they're not, these people, you might think that they're really, really stupid,
they're incredibly intelligent.
They're not stupid people. Like, Lil Uzi Vert, right? Like, he's another one of those, like, mumble rappers, whatever you want to call it, but he's a smart dude. Like, he knows the history, but like, you don't have to love boom bap hip hop to be a rapper, man. It's just not the way that things are. And people, and I'm not gonna sit here and defend those guys because I rap my ass off. My goal is to go in there and try to be the best rapper possible. And yeah, does part of me wish everybody did that? Of course. Hip hop's a competition, man. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, man, like, there's times where I want to listen to somebody turn up. There's times where I want to listen to melodies more than lyrics, you know?
I feel like it's hard because we grew up where like turn up was almost like really coming up with, you know, Ying Yang Twins, almost everything from the South started getting us bumped, and like all of us up north guys were like, yo, that's hot. And for a while, a lot of the stuff down south even was like, we were looking at it like, yo, whatever, and then it became more commercial or more like acceptable. This is almost like where we just don't know what to do with it. Like, it's kind of just like, yo, like, here, take this, and you know, this is yours now. And we're just like, they don't want nothing to do with us. We're not sure what to do with them. So how do we even respond to this? Because like a lot of them are, you know, so in their own like ways. Like, you know, I'm not a rapper, or I'm doing this, and we're just like, whatever it is you're doing, let us know, because we would love to know, so we can figure out not even where to categorize you guys, but just how to relate or understand.
Yeah, no, I agree. You're right. I do agree with that very much. So,
like someone put a post the other day. It was like, we're the generation of drug dealers and like glorified like pimps and whatnot who birthed these like pill popping kids. Yeah. And I was just like, shit. Like, that's actually.
Yeah, I say all the time, man. Like in the 90s, early 2000s, it was drug dealing music, and now it seems to be drug using music.
Yeah.
They're all talking about getting high instead of like selling it. And you know, I think it's just comes with the times, man. Things change, and
Never get high on your own supply. These kids don't listen.
Hey, but you know, they're also to the point where if you think that these dudes are doing as much drugs as they say they are, then I think you're silly. You know, like these guys they're businessmen as well. Like, you know, they're not.
Image.
They're not. It's totally. It's a facade.
Like a brand.
And I think, you know, that we got kids overdosing that are rappers that are big. So like, it's not just that. Like, I think you got to be careful with. You got to be careful with what you say. Obviously, you don't want to get a 12-year-old kid who's listening to your music to try Xanax. I mean, that's a given. But at the same time, your parents need to watch you. Like, just because you're listening to some type of music at 12 years old doesn't mean you're doing Xanax. You know, like, you might not even know what they're talking about, and maybe it's a blessing, maybe it's a curse, but you're still listening to it. You know, you still know who these guys are, and they're working, man. Like, you know, I never hate on a young dude. These kids are 20, man. Like, and they're making money and they're getting out there doing their thing. And whether or not they want to be classified as hip hop or if they want to be classified as whatever, it doesn't really matter. I mean, Gigi Allen was punk, and then when I was in high school, like, Panic at the Disco was punk. You know?
Yeah,
like,
I would say they were more pop punk, but yeah, that was.
But no,
that was
totally.
like the new. Yeah, that was the
totally.
new brand of punk.
But everyone with
punk
with the, you know, hair over one eye, and like, that was punk, you know, and
they were that affectionately called scene kids, and now scene kids.
Right.
It was emo, and then it was scene kids, and then there were hardcore kids, and now you have.
But I feel like rock has had such a, like, you guys have a timeline. I feel like the last 10, maybe even 5 years of hip hop, the timeline gets a little skewed because we have the mumble rappers, but then we still have a lot of underground, like the guys who come up on Team Backpack who never really get burned. The rebirth of Cypher's coming out. We have, you know, the Cardi B's coming out, and we're just like, okay, like, where, like, we usually have more of a telltale, defining moment that we can say, like, this was the birth of that, and that was the wave then.
You know, I'm more talking about the small, like, little communities and what they were called around that whole thing. They were the same kids. It was just called something different. You know, you had the emo kids that wore all the black, and they had the guy liner and all that shit, and then it went to scene, and then they had the swoop. Yeah, they were goth. They were going through a goth phase and you know, an emo phase and a scene phase and a hardcore. You know, like, you have the straight edge hardcore kids fans that always talked about, oh, I don't drink, I keep my body pure. You know, like that stupid shit that happens.
Straight edge.
They're straight edge. You got the earplugs, everything. You know, like, all of their screen names have XX on it because they're straight edge. You know. But they're all the same kids. It's all the same shit. It's all the same thing.
Yeah, of course.
It's just a matter of it's just a matter of changing it. But I mean, if you really look at rock music overall, it's just a mashup. Especially if you're looking at what's popular. I mean, you have shit like bands like Nickelback and 3 Days Grace that have been around since I was in fucking high school, and they sound exactly the fucking same they did when they first came out and when I was a freshman in high school. They sound the same. I Hate Everything About You, and their newest song sounds exactly the fucking same to me. I mean, obviously it's not the same song, but it sounds. I can tell by the first two chords that it's a 3 Days Grace song. You don't even have to tell me what it is or when it was released. It's a 3 Days Grace song. Same thing with Nickelback. But then you got bands like Avenged Sevenfold who go through a whole bunch of different phases. But then you also have like Five Finger Death Punch, which was originally a hardcore metal band that became more.
They were mono grader.
Yeah, it was crazy. They switch around. You have all sorts of crazy stuff going on with all of that. So I mean, you look at like the Black Keys. The Black Keys is a fucking throwback to like the '60s and the early '70s with how they play. But it's popular music right now, because they have a modern spin on a classic sound. You can do the same thing that happens in the rap genre or the hip hop genre, and look at it from because hip hop is such a big umbrella now. Hip hop's not just like this one tiny genre anymore. Hip hop is the umbrella term that we use, just like when we're talking like you have hip hop and you have R&B, and those two sort of things sort of have a little bit of meshing at the sides, but there's all sort of like they're all their own things, and then they have different subgenres beneath. Rock and country have the same thing. You know, EDM has its own. There are a million different styles of EDM and house and all of that stuff. So you could really say the same thing about all of it. You know, if you're really looking at the entirety of the genre, it's a mixed bag depending on what year you're looking at. But if you're following, say, like a specific genre, so like what I'm talking about is like pop punk in the early 2000s. So like from my freshman year of high school through, I want to say maybe 7 or 8 years ago, when that sort of scene died out and it became something else. But it was pop punk. And so it was all scene kids. It was all emo. And scene and emo kids were sort of looked at as the same thing, but they were different. If you were an emo kid, you were listening to like older Taking Back Sunday, Dashboard Confessional, Sunny Day Real Estate. If you were listening to pop punk, you were listening to more like The Starting Line and Matchbook Romance and what the hell is the? I can't even. Just Surrender. There's a whole bunch of them, and then you have the bands that are in the middle. You know, Fall Out Boy was one of those bands that really sort of pioneered everything.
My Chemical Romance.
My Chemical Romance. But they came at sort of different times, but they were all sort of tacked onto that same little subgenre of pop punk. And then there were all small movements in between. Panic at the Disco. Like, perfect example, Panic at the Disco. You look at their first album, which is the one that they got really big on. Everything was, you know, there was technically pop punk with like an electronic feel. And then you look at their second album, Pretty Odd, and it sounds like a Beatles album. Like, it sounds like I go out and listen to 9 in the Afternoon. It's
that's a great song.
So crazy different, and it's literally the first and second album that they put out. So I mean, you can have that change in a span of 2 or 3 years, or you can have that change over the span of a whole career.
Yeah, it goes right back to just growth, man. Like, you know, when they were writing, you know, 9 in the Afternoon, it was a much different time than, you know, what was the big song called? I Write Sins.
Not tragedies.
Yeah, I Write Sins, not. I Write
Tragedies. I Write Sins, not
tragedies.
tragedies. But they're so. It's like it's two different people, you know. But it's just people are so many things, man.
And the cool part is you can really hear the similarities in the way that the lyrics are structured, and
yeah.
So like they're two very, very, very different albums, but you can tell that they were written by the same people.
Right.
But it's obviously at a different time in their lives and a different point in their career and what they were listening to. Because I think a lot of people don't understand.
It's kind of like listening to Kanye. Like, 808 Kanye
even so,
and College Dropout Kanye are two different Kanyes.
Yes, but I also feel like
you can see how he got there.
I also feel like a lot of people don't take into consideration the things that people listen to that inspire them to write the music that they do.
Absolutely, yeah.
You know what I mean? So
I'm a lot like that.
Yeah, a lot of people don't take it into consideration what the artists are listening to currently that have inspired them to write the songs that they're writing.
I have to be very careful. When I'm in writing mode, I have to be very careful what I listen to. Because I'll literally write a verse and I'll read it back to myself and I'm like, this doesn't sound like me. This sounds like a Tech 9 verse. Or this sounds like a whoever verse, right? And so I have to be very careful with what I listen. It's not that I have to be careful with what I listen to. I have to be careful with what I write when I'm listening.
You have to be conscious of what you're writing and what's inspiring you.
Right, exactly. And I think, you know, the good ones can make it sound like their own. Like I love College Dropout. It's a great album. But my beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy is on a whole nother level of music. Not rapping, not hip-hop, I'm talking like, it's beautiful, it's a movie, you can go watch it, and it's a whole, you know, he designed it to be a whole fucking movie, man, like, it's growth, it shows growth big time.
For sure.
Absolutely. I don't know, that's always bothered me.
Yeah. I think
Kanye is like that, though.
One of the only artists that I can right off the bat think of, and you can see the progression in each album and each song, and even how he did his videos of like where you can tell where he was in his life. You can tell like, you know, what influenced him, what was like heavily like just everything for him, what was important, you know, what he just didn't give a fuck about anymore. All those things like were really prominent, especially going into Graduation, going into 808 Heartbreak, going to my Dark Twisted Fantasy. Which, and I feel like you can, when you listen to those albums, when you first heard them, they were always hard to get into the first time around. Like, you wanted to like them.
I hated Dark Twisted Fantasy. I hated it, dude.
Yeah.
And it took me a long time to love it.
Yeah.
And now it's my favorite Kanye album.
Yeah.
You know, it might not be like my favorite it's I'll listen to the whole thing.
Yeah.
I'm not listening to one of them. I'm listening to the whole thing. College Dropout, I'll go through and I will listen to the whole thing every now and then. Mm-hmm. But I'm mostly, you know, you go to you pick your songs, right? You pick the ones that you really like. And I was lucky enough to where, like, my mother loved hip-hop. So, like, on the ride to school, I was able to, like, listen to stuff like that, like College Dropout and Graduation and stuff like that. So I was lucky enough to be able to hear it at a young age, to where when I didn't even understand it.
Keep skipping Late Registration.
That's the album I probably listen to the most.
Okay, because we both kept going College Dropout, Graduation. I feel like neither of us said Late Registration
was good, but I don't think, like, I think at the time, like, I listened to it all the time. There's one part of that where it's like, what is the song called, man? He's got like a big baritone dude singing in it, and he's like, we strive at home, I ride on chrome. Okay. And he's like, sweat up, and I ain't talking about a Cool J, me and Big L, and I ain't talking about Cool J. Like, that shit is so smooth, man. Like, it's so smooth, and you'll never forget it. You'll always remember it forever, you know? I remember the first time I heard it, and I was in awe, and I didn't even really understand everything he was saying at that point. I just knew it was good. And then it's like, when I listened to Jay-Z as a kid, I never liked Jay-Z. Like, it wasn't that I didn't like it, it was that I didn't understand it until I got older. Once I hit, like, 17, 18 into my 20s, I was, like, going back and listening to Jay-Z, you know, and he's just, like, a lot of pop culture references, you know, like, he has that bar where he's like, I scrambled like Randall with his Cunningham, but the only thing running was numbers, fam. He's talking about Randall Cunningham. Like, and as a kid, I had no idea what he was talking about. But now I'm like, oh, wow, that's so clever, man. This dude can just flip it in different ways. And, you know, Watch the Throne's not a good album, really, in my opinion. I don't love it. I don't listen to it. But, like, even there's bars on that album where you're just like, Jay-Z's so good. This guy's the man.
I feel like Watch the Throne was the last album where Jay-Z was even a little bit like himself. Because I feel like, so when he came on that 2020 verse with Justin Timberlake, and everyone was like, oh my God. And I was like, who's this guy? Like, like that easily, like, I know once you reach to a certain, you know, level, especially the level he's at, where he's not, you know, the drug dealer anymore. He's the big business CEO kind of guy. He doesn't need to rap a certain way or do things a certain style, but it almost felt like he got comfortable and lazy with, like, how he did that verse, which completely turned me off.
Right, yeah.
Because I was just like, at least, like,
it's almost like he's not trying anymore.
Right, to the same degree, like, M can be lazy, but still just, like, shit fire. You know what I mean? Where Jay-Z's being lazy, you're just like, alright, now you just don't give a fuck anymore. Like, you really are just, like, taking the check.
I think part of Jay-Z is, like, he has this, and a lot of people don't agree with it, but he has that thing in him where anything he says is dope. Like, he has that, like, weird, like he used to talk about, like, drug, like, if you go back to, like, old Jay-Z, like, when he was with Jazz, it was like, hibbity-bibbity-bibbity-bibbity-boo. Like, it was all this really weird, like, late 80s, early 90s, but, like, it was always, everything he said he knew was really dope. Like, he had that aura about him. And now, like, and I know it's not, he's technically, like, not, like, a great rapper to me anymore. Like, his old stuff's amazing. He's a great rapper. But he's so cool. Like he's got like a coolness about him where he can literally just say, yeah, I'm talking yay. Yeah, I'm talking re. Yeah, I'm talking B. Yeah, I'm talking me. And it's like, this dude's a businessman. He signed Kanye West, Rihanna, Beyonce, and himself. Like, he's just super, super cool. And, like, whether you like it or not, you got to understand, like, he kind of doesn't have to try, you know? And that's something that you either like it or you hate it, I guess, you know?
That's fair. That's super
Don't
fair.
hate the player, hate the game.
Yeah. I mean, hey, when you sign Rihanna, Kanye West, and Beyonce, man, like, you kind of have the right to be really cool. You know?
Right?
What do you
Those
say?
are some of the
That,
biggest artists of this generation.
He's like, the label doesn't drop me, I drop the label, something like that.
Yeah, you know, it's just super cool. Like, he's super,
right.
super cool.
Yeah. For sure.
But some people can't get away with it. Some people try to get away with it, and they can only do it for so long. Like, I would rather hear Eminem, like, talk about cutting a kitten's head off and putting it in a kid's mailbox than, like, bash on Trump. And I'm not even saying that whether I don't even support the guy, but I'm not trying to hear my favorite rapper from back in the day talk politics. I'm not there for that.
Right.
And that's fine. I'm glad that he uses his voice. Like, I love that about people, like, that they use their voice for things, but it's not for me. Like, I appreciate it. I like what he's saying, and it's cool. I just don't think it's very good. And that's two different things. If I thought the bars were super hot, then that would be a different story. I would say, oh yeah, you know, the guy's going in, but he really reaches for these metaphors now, and I can't. Sometimes I'm just like, where is he even going? Like, where is this going to end? Like, what is he even talking about right now? And but all of this hate that I'm spewing, I love the Marshall Mathers LP too. I love it because he took some of my old favorite classic songs, like what is the song called? Time of the Season. You know, and he did it, and he put a spin on it, called it Rhyme or Reason, and, like, it was nasty. That whole, what's your name? Who's your daddy? Like, you know Eminem's story, so you know he's gonna talk shit about his dad. Like, you know it's gonna happen, right?
Right.
And in that song, in the original, the guy says, I wonder if he's rich like me, and, like, Eminem can just be like, probably not. Like, you know, like, he's got his own thing going. I love that album. It's great. But, I don't want to hear, like, some stretched out, it takes him 4 bars to get to a metaphor. You know, it's hard to listen to. It's hard to follow. And I think a lot of people are like that, man. And you either love it or you don't, you know. Mm-hmm. I think, like, Royce da 5'9" he's amazing. What a great rapper. But he has that in him where, like, he takes so long to get to the punch. And sometimes he loses me in the scheme, you know? It'll be 3 bars that rhyme, and then 3 that don't, and then 2 that rhyme with the first 3. And you're like, whoa.
Out of the last Shady Cypher, that big one that they did, like, each of their, like, respective cities.
Yeah, they were all acapellas, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Who was your favorite?
Crooked Eye. Crooked Eye killed it.
Crooked Eye is very slept on. I feel like people...
so good, dude.
He's like, he's the person that everyone's just like, Crooked Eye, like, why? And he's not my favorite, but I feel like people should give him more respect. I think it's because, yes, Joel or Joe, like, are straight nasty, but Crooked has some lines where you're just like, you have to respect that.
Have you ever listened to Horseshoe Gang? It's like Crooked Eye's, like, little homies. Like, I think one of them's his brother.
I don't think so.
They're super nice, but they have a song where Crooked Eye, I forget what it's called. I'll have to, like, link it or something. But, dude, Crooked Eye just, you almost understand why nobody even listens to it. Like, it's almost too good.
Oh,
you know, like, it's so good that you're like, oh my goodness, man. Like, you can't even keep up with it sometimes. Like, you're just dropping so much shit on your head, like, bar after bar. It's a lot to deal with, man. So Joe Budden and Joel Ortiz are more simple. You know what they said right as they said it. Mm-hmm. You don't have to think about it. And I think that that's something that makes people popular or not a lot of the time, you know, like whether it's easily digestible or not, you know. And that's why you see all these new hip-hop dudes shining through, because they're rhyming car with bar and you know, and it's the beat that people are listening to. But they understand the song right away. And so there's something to be said for the simplicity of things, you know. But that's just my opinion, man. You know, everybody, it's so subjective what you enjoy and what you listen to. You know,
absolutely, and that's what it should be about. Anyway, it should be what you enjoy listening to, and who gives a fuck if the person next to you likes or dislikes what you're listening to.
Well, I think the problem starts to begin with people that dislike what other people like. Like they hate what it's like, dude. Just like it or don't, and leave it there. Don't convince this guy that the music sucks. Because he likes it, right? It's not going to happen. You're never going to convince somebody that their favorite rapper isn't good. You know, he's their favorite. It's just the way that it goes.
Right on. I think this is a solid spot to end it, guys.
Shit.
That was fun, guys.
Drop
Seriously.
your links and
invite me
introduce
back.
yourself. I don't think we got a chance to introduce him.
What? Who? Him?
Well, I forget that on my screen it's not the same how you guys said it.
Yeah, of course. Yeah,
I'm here on mine. I'm over here on mine. But no, yeah, man. If you want to look me up, man, Time and Lepp, you can go to massacremusicgroup.com. It's spelt like massacre, but it's pronounced massacre. Massacremusicgroup.com. Find the Time and Lepp tab. We're in there. Find everyone else on there too. That's part of it. If you're into like sneakers or vintage clothing or anything like that, you can go to my Instagram shop. It's just at ShoeFlyVintage. That's it. And if you're into kicks or anything, you know, whether it be vintage clothing or something like this, or you like Jordans, whatever it might be, man, go over to ShoeFlyVintage or just DM me, man. I got all sorts of stuff that's not posted. Other than that, man, you know, thank you guys for having me, dude. Hopefully I can get back here again, dude. This was really, really fun conversation, man.
Same.
Oh, yeah, man. I'd love to have you back on.
For real. But, yeah, thank you guys, man. Thank you very much.
No doubt.
Of course, bro.
Catch you guys later.
I will see ya.
Peace.
Peace.